Welcome to Dave Campbell's Texas Football Online Series, Double Coverage. I'm Courtney Schellin, joined by Greg Tepper. Today we're going to talk about Texas Tech and if they have an opportunity to be a Big 12 contender for the title. And we're also going to talk about the Aggies' run game.
Okay. Which one are we talking about first?
Let's talk about Texas Tech first.
Okay. So what's the question?
So Texas Tech, they've been doing really well, but kind of like Baylor, like we talked about last week, it's debatable how good they are because of the teams they've played so far.
Sure.
Do they have a chance for the Big 12 title?
Well, I do think that we have to make a bit of a distinction between Baylor, us saying that Baylor hasn't necessarily played anybody, and Texas Tech not necessarily playing anybody. For Baylor, I mean, you've played Wofford and you've played, Louisiana Monroe and teams like that aren't necessarily teams that are going to contend. Texas Tech, now they have not played a world beater of a schedule either, but they have played TCU, and they beat them at home in a close game, but, they have played a conference game. Baylor will get their shot this weekend against West Virginia to kind of prove that they're for real. But as far as Texas Tech is concerned, I think the jury's still out a little bit. The defense has played out of its mind so far. I think Terrence Bullock has been a revelation at that kind of nickelback, safety linebacker spot wherever they play him. Kerry Hyder's been a great leader for them. They've had a lot of young guys step up and step in on that defense. I have questions about that offense, though. They're still playing musical quarterbacks between, when Michael Brewer comes back, is he going to be the guy? They're going to stick with Baker Mayfield, or they're going to stick with Davis Webb? I mean, that's going to be an interesting case study for whenever Brewer gets healthy.
What do you think is a good decision to keep as quarterback? Do you think they should keep Baker Mayfield or?
Well, I think that if Michael Brewer hadn't gotten hurt, he would be the starting quarterback. So I think that when he comes back, I don't think that Baker Mayfield or Davis Webb have performed so overwhelmingly well that you say, oh, well, it has to be one of them. I think that when Brewer is healthy, which may be this week, I think that you have to give him the job. I think that it was his job that he earned. But, I think there's going to be a shorter leash now that they've shown that they can win with Mayfield or Webb. So, there's still a lot of moving parts with this Tech team. I think we're going to learn a lot more about it. But I think they could start 7-0. I think that the schedule sets up nicely for them. They're traveling to Kansas this week. That's a winnable game. So, we'll see. If they win this one, then all of a sudden they're 2-0 in conference, and that's moving forward for them.
Right. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of yards from Jason Morrow, as usual, in this game. So, all right, let's move to the Aggies.
Okay.
All right, so the run game. Last game, it was the first time that their rush yards were higher than their pass yards. So,
Well, for one, they unleashed Johnny Manziel. If we want to talk about the difference between Manziel in the past, in last year's Heisman campaign as to this year, he hasn't run as much. And that's kind of been fun to watch, that kind of maturation and that kind of evolution, that he has become more of a pocket passer. And that was kind of the knock on him. The knock on him was, what happens when you make him sit back there and throw the ball? Well, he's shown that he can beat people.
Well, it's interesting, too, because he also leads the team in rush yards, so rush and pass, so it's clear he's a dual threat. We've seen that. We know that. So now the question is, who's left on the Aggies that's important right underneath Manziel?
Well, I mean, Ben Molina has been great for them, and he's been really good for them, as well as the Oregon transfer Trey Carson has been an absolute revelation for them.
He was great in the last game.
We were thinking that that it was going to be a lot of Trey Williams, who we saw at Spring Decaney, and he's been fantastic. Although it looks like he's banged up now. He was going to be the Lightning, and Trey Carson was going to be the Thunder. And man, Trey Carson has been incredible. He's been really fun to watch for this Aggie offense. It added a new kind of, not that the other running backs aren't tough, but he's that tough running.
Right, definitely.
It's been fun to watch that element come in there. Listen, this is still an offense that can beat you in a lot of different ways. A lot like the Baylor offense. Right. It can beat you in a lot of different ways. So it's not necessarily surprising that that in that particular game against Arkansas, that they are, that they were running the ball a little more. But I think that tells you that that's an offense that can take what the defense gives you.
So up ahead, they're going to play LSU. What are you thinking?
Well, all of a sudden, the SEC looks like a wide open offensive league. For years and years, it was you've got to be able to play defense. You've got to be able to keep teams under 18 points to win games. Well, now you saw the Georgia and LSU game, and they lit each other up 45-42 or something to that effect. Well, now that's a big concern for the Aggies because the defense has not been good. The defense has been
Right.
borderline bad.
They've been solid with their offense. Their defense is
And not very good. And
definitely lagging.
The stat that I saw last week was that for Arkansas gained something like 480 yards against Texas A&M. They only gained 450 yards against Samford, not Stanford. Samford, S-A-M-F-O-R-D, an FCS team. So that's got to be concerning. And traveling to Death Valley is never fun. This is going to be a tough game. I think it's going to be a tough game, and I think that until the defense shows that it can really keep up with the offense, I think that Aggie fans have to be a little bit concerned.
Right. At this point, if they're just relying on their offense, what happens if Johnny Manziel goes out with an injury?
Sure.
And then you're left to think, okay, now we have to rely on the defense.
And that may not be there.
Right. Exactly. All right. Well, that's going to round it up for this week's segment. So thanks for tuning in.